Hey guys, my name is Dr. Charnel Wolverton Sehon, and this is Swiftfire True TV. So excited because we have a very awesome panel of amazing, beautiful, I don't want to say activists, I would say love on legs women who love people, love the future, love our children, and they're all coming together to talk about some things that are going on, some calls to action for just the regular citizen, no matter where you are, whether you're in Louisiana or any state of the union, whether you're overseas. We are looking at some things here that are happening and some things that we as citizens, as sovereign beings, can do in our own backyard of what we can do here. And so before we get going, I just want to remind everybody, go to swiftfire.org, swift as in quick, fire.org. Please get on the newsletter. If you can get on the newsletter, then no matter what's going on with censorship, you know what's going on, what's coming up, you have any past interviews and what's happening, and resources too. So please go to swiftfire.org if you would like to stay in the loop of what's happening. I am super excited. These are new friends of mine that are from all over, really. And I'm going to just start because I think it's important for everybody just to see that these are not like triple nominated Nobel Prize winner kind of whatever, or scientists on the X like top level whatever. These are just people who love children, who love families, who love freedom, who love God, and they're doing things for the world. And so I'd love to get a little bit of background. I'm going to start with Christy. I'm just going to go around just a short bio of who you are and why you're involved in what you're doing right now.
Hi, my name is Christy Hike. I am originally from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I left Louisiana for a period of approximately 20 years and moved to Germany. I lived in Germany for 20 years. I am back in Louisiana. I have been back for approximately 6 years. And I have a different perspective, being that I lived in another country for such a long period. I realize how very blessed we are in this country. Germany's by no means a third world country, but the freedoms and the rights that we enjoy here were hard won by our soldiers, etc. I, coming back, realized how very much we influenced the rest of the world. I got that perspective living in another country. And when I did get back, more recently saw how some nefarious things, to me, nefarious things have been happening in our country, and how, the knight on shining armor on his white horse won't necessarily ride in to save us all. We sort of have to step up ourselves as citizens of this country, we who love this country so much, and do things at a level in our cities that make a difference. The small things make a big difference. So I also have been at some things that were very pivotal in my vantage point that made me realize that if I don't step up, who will? So Connie and Katie and I have been really doing activist things at a local level for the past few months. We were attending the legislature, watching them in session. We discovered a great many truths that were not necessarily all lovely. And so that is why we feel like it's time to have a voice, to step up and to take action. And yeah, so.
That's awesome, Christy. Yeah, and while we are going around, I would love to hear where all of you watching are from, and you're back, we have some people from Texas, Louisiana, some other people are popping up. I actually lived in Germany too as well. I lived all over, really? But I was in Bremerhaven. Where were you? Where were you, Christy?
Oh, I was in Speyer, in Rhineland-Pfalz on the Rhine. It was a beautiful.
Oh my God, that's the most gorgeous place.
Gorgeous.
Yes. Yes. And Christy has been at some pivotal events besides here locally that were very eye-opening. And I can say that for a lot of people on this panel, and also probably many of you were a part of those events that have been a little bit interesting, to say the least, to find out. And then, so next we have Candy, and Candy was actually a part of helping with the tour, the Arise tour in Shreveport, and she's got a lot of connections with some of the same people that I've been working with Sasha Stone and Robert, and all of those guys, a part of the tour. I was a part of the tour, and I would love to hear your background, Candy. I heard a little bit about it, but just for the viewers.
Yeah, so I've never really been politically active before. And then after this most recent election, and I just was horrified at what I saw happening and realized that we were in trouble, this country was in trouble. And, but I couldn't figure out what I could do. How could I make a difference? What could I do? And I've worked in the nonprofit sector for many years here locally. I'm in Shreveport, and so I'm used to doing things because I'm motivated to do it, not for any monetary reason or any reason other than I just love what I'm doing. And so I was at a point in my life where I was looking for something else that was going to get to my heart. And after that election, I just thought, oh my God, I have to do something. So a friend of mine said, maybe we could just start a group of our friends that could meet every once in a while and just have people to talk to about current events and, how we can help. Meanwhile, I heard a broadcast, Steve Bannon's War Room, and I was listening to all his calls to action, and I kept hearing different people, Michael Flynn, a lot of different people talking about precincts and the precinct project. And Bannon had a couple of different guests on about that, precincts, getting involved at the precinct level. I thought, okay, maybe that's it. So I did some looking around at precincts, and we have no precincts here in Shreveport. There are none. So that kind of fell by the wayside, but our little group started meeting regularly. It's grown, and our group is called Integrity Matters. And so from that, I realized the legislative session was about to start. And I'm not sure if that's me making all the clicking noise or not.
Do you have some earphones by any chance?
I can go find them somewhere, probably.
Okay, how about you go grab some and we'll get to Katie and come back and finish.
Okay. All right. I'll do that.
Awesome. Sorry about that, guys. Little interference. I think, did it stop now? No.
It may be me.
Maybe.
Please stop. It stopped. Okay. Well, it's still continuing.
Yeah. Do you have some earphones by any chance? No. Okay.
Okay. Do you have earphones that you can run over to Katie? It's important.
It stopped. I don't know what. I think probably. Why don't we go to Connie and I'll see if.
Okay. Yeah, we'll go to Connie and let's see if we can get you some earphones. Go ahead.
Okay, my name is Connie Sampanero. I am from the Monroe, Louisiana area, so I'm in Northeast Louisiana, fairly close to Candy. She's in Shreveport. And I became concerned after the presidential election, just watching the very questionable acts that were going on. And then I learned that we were looking at purchasing some voting equipment. It was like $100 million. Mm-hmm. And so I thought, well, you know what, maybe we just need to educate our legislators. Maybe we just need to have an expert speak to our Secretary of State. And so that's where I was reaching out to some of the experts that spoke at the, that testified in the hearings in the swing states. And I was able to make contact, and then I asked them to speak with the Secretary of State and with our legislators. And that's the path I took. And then I became interested in some other legislation and just started attending the Capitol and the legislative session.
Yeah, and my point of all of this mainly too is to make sure that you guys understand that no matter where you are, these guys, you all have other jobs, right?
Yes.
I mean, everybody here has a job or does something where you're, 9 to 5 situation, and yet your future, your children's future, the future of America in general is so important that you're doing this extra to make
Right.
something happen, right?
Right. And honestly, I saw that the federal government is obviously extremely broken. And so I was in hopes that our state was not, and that we could possibly make a change, and that the legislators were more accessible. Maybe I have never been involved in anything like this before. Like you said, all of us are working and we're raising kids and, all of that, like everyone else is. But it was eye-opening to experience and just to sit as an observer and watch what goes on in our legislature. It was very, very eye-opening.
And we're definitely going to talk a little bit about that too. I'm going to let Candy finish up what she was saying. I'm still getting the clicking sound. I don't know what's going on, but go ahead.
Yeah, I'm hearing it too. Well, I'm not exactly sure where I left off, but I did hear Connie talking about, meeting me, and I think where I was, God, I'm wondering if this is me still making all this noise.
Go ahead. I'm going to grab
Okay.
some earphones for myself. You go ahead and go.
Okay. So I formed a group with a friend called Integrity Matters, and we became aware the legislative session was starting. We became aware the same thing that Connie had, the $100 million coming up for voting machines, and then I realized there was a bill or 2 or 3 or 4 coming up in front of the legislature that had to do with voting machines, and I became aware of a letter that our Senator Hewitt, who wrote one of these bills, had written. And I thought originally it was a great letter that we were going to really see some progress with our voting machine bill, and it just absolutely devastated me, really, to see the whole process and to see how it all turned out in the end. I just couldn't believe that our process is so screwed up. So I'm here. I made quite a few trips down to Baton Rouge and watched the process firsthand, and I was impressed. That's
Yeah.
me.
So just so we know what you were experiencing and what you're seeing, and excuse the technical difficulties, you guys. I'm not understanding why there's this crackling sound. It sounds like someone's typing, but Christy, can you share with us a little bit about what your experience was as far as when you went to legislation and what kind of things you were seeing?
Sure. Initially I thought, I was naive enough to think that when we vote our senators, our representatives in, and the people for whom you voted, get elected, that they will vote the way that you want them to vote along certain, party lines or whatever the issue is. And I see that firsthand. It's not that way, that there most times, and there are a handful that aren't this way, that really are trying to do a good job and are trying to be informed. But I think they're a very small minority. I think that the majority of our legislators, our lawmakers, from what I've witnessed, seem to not be as informed as they should be. It's almost as if we, the citizenry coming to them, were more informed about particular legislation than bills than they were. It's like they didn't even have a clue about what we were saying. And some of them said that we were absolutely wrong on certain things when we had the evidence of being correct right in front of us, and we were able to show them in black and white that the things we were saying were indeed true when they had never heard it before. And so it's disheartening. It's disappointing. It's absolutely something that I was shocked to witness. And then they don't seem to, once they're presented with the facts, to care. They take every opportunity, especially when they're in disagreement with you, and you can see when they are. They ask pointed questions that are, just inflammatory in a sense. But when they are in disagreement, if they don't have an argument, we've witnessed them just their tactic is to leave the room.
Yes.
To the point where a lot of times there's no quorum to vote. And it's reprehensible. So I just was really, my eyes were opened wide all these days visiting the legislature, because I really had the highest regard for these lawmakers. My opinion has changed, sadly, based on what I witnessed.
Hey, Katie, you're
Yeah.
with us. Thanks for joining us. I'd love to hear a little bit about your background and kind of jump into where we're at here.
Okay.
Where are you from? Just where you're from, a brief little history of how you got here, what you're doing.
Yes. Well, my story is similar in the sense that I'm from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and I've lived other places, but I've raised my family here. I'm the mother of 4 boys. My husband has always been politically active, and I've complained bitterly. I've complained bitterly at the fundraising and I up until child number 3, I said no more fundraising at my house. I just couldn't get it together for that anymore. But anyway, after this election, I was, distraught and complaining. And he said, why don't you stop complaining and go do something?
Mm-hmm.
And so I did. And I thought, well, what can a housewife, mother of 4 boys, what can I possibly do that would have any effect at all? I mean, but I joined my local Republican Party and my our chapter here. And we started attending. We started going to the session and learning about all the laws, and I chose the topics that I wanted to support because there were so many worthy causes going on. I can't believe that so many really life-changing subjects were being discussed.
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine a session that would have ever had more critical topics than this particular session, but I learned that we can make a difference. And, I say that having been ignored, we went in with Christy and I started, and I met Connie and Candy through the process. We learned that, it was almost like everybody was in on a secret that we didn't know about or something.
Right.
Decisions were made before we
Yep.
showed up.
Mm-hmm.
The people, I would say, really showed up, and I'm talking very intelligent people, very educated people,
Mm-hmm.
to testify and to speak. And you really, for each hearing that I was there, I was always so impressed with the quality of people that showed up, took the time, because it was not like an hour thing. It was like you had to go there the entire day for your hearing, and it could be pushed the following day. So, but people showed up, and we were basically ignored. I mean, that's to sum it up. And it is very distressing, because I got involved because I see the country going in a direction that is at a pace. It's changing so rapidly that it's frightening. So, but I think that we will be able to make some good changes. My hope is not lost. I stay optimistic that we can affect change. But we learned, this was a learning process, and we learned through the process what was working and what was not working. And I think that for the next session, we'll be better prepared.
Thank you for sharing that, Katie, because that is what I keep hearing over and over again. It sounds like, and I mean, I'm just gonna like sum it in a way that maybe not exact your words. These are my words. It's almost like you did say this part, that it was decided before you got there. So no matter what anyone said, or if anyone said anything, then it wouldn't matter. And also, there's this like almost let's just push everything away and like delay, and maybe they'll give up. Yes. And then you'll get so tired that you won't come back, and and then we'll win just because we just keep going. And because when I was talking to the representative, I get phone calls all hours from different people who are literally in the sessions and writing the bills. And they're like, pray about this, put this out, this is what's going on, keeping me in the loop, which I'm very thankful for the amazing people on the front line who are doing this. Oh my God. And for all of you who are going to testify, and all these people who have great literal science and backing up examples, experience to explain why these things are important. Not just like they read it in a book somewhere, but they're living it, experiencing it, walking it out with students, with situations, with science, with whatever you fill in the blank of whatever the bill is. And it's almost like they will run the clock and just be like, oh my God, no, I found out, it's going to be today. No, it's going to be tomorrow. And then it's like the next day, and then it's the next day. Well, if you're coming from 4 or 5 hours away and you took off of work to show up to testify, how many days can you take off to actually give your 30 minutes to an hour, 15 minutes of explanation? And they're just like, you know what, we'll just like make them wait, and then they will come back, and then we'll get our way, and everything will be fine. And it's just a little bit kind of interesting, isn't it? Does anyone care to share a little bit?
Connie drives 4 hours every time, and 4 hours one way. And then to Candy too. Yeah, exactly. It's and they know. And if they don't, I just feel like it's a situation of exactly what you said. Let's make them tired of waiting. And they dismiss and they say, well, the bill is tabled, and then immediately it's back on, and we've either left, or it's just like their tactics. It seems like tactics that they're employing to sort of get rid of us. That's how it felt. I'm not alone in that feeling. It was really, and like Katie said, it's almost like a foregone conclusion. By the time we're able to testify and say things, no one's really listening. Because it feels to me, it looks to me like they already know which way they're going to vote, no matter what we say, no matter what they hear. And so it's, you feel like you're just spinning your wheels.
Also, one other thing that's really interesting is they give you 3 minutes to testify. Now, that's long. Okay, so we went down to testify. My husband is a cardiologist, in front of the Health and Welfare Committee of the House. And when our bill came up, which they conveniently pushed to the very last bill, right before lunch, they actually gave the experts, I would say there's about 5 doctors that came in to testify for that bill. They gave them 1 minute. 1 minute. Now, these are the people making our health policy decisions for our children, for us, for our grandchildren, and our parents. Only one person on the entire committee had healthcare experience, one nurse practitioner. They have no advisory board except for the Louisiana Department of Health, which I have zero confidence in. They've come up with absolutely crazy ideas to contain anything. So what we saw was a complete disdain for the public during that committee. Absolutely. And the room was packed. It must have been, I would say, about 80, maybe more people there. And we had a lot of physicians that were testifying for the 3 or 4 previous bills. So they were still in the room. But when a physician would testify the 3 minutes, they would try to discredit the testimony of the physician. So what we really saw was a sight. That was really disappointing when we know these people are making our health policy decisions.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Other things we were seeing is there's this strange division in the Republican Party. You have the Gang of 23, they call themselves, which they're the moderate Republicans, which I didn't know. I thought the Republican platform was the Republican platform, and it's conservative. Physically, they have Christian values, things of that nature. Not that the Democratic doesn't, it's a certain platform. I did not know we needed to divide it and have a conservative caucus and then have moderates. They're literally fighting each other. And you could see that when a conservative person had a bill, you could see that your moderate Republicans were not so kind. And they also did not want to hear from us. I approached the head of the Governmental Affairs Committee for the House regarding a case I thought that was important for him to hear, a Georgia case that sets precedents on election integrity. And he was so annoyed with me that I approached him in public, I believe. I had sent him the case about 3 or 4 times. And I thought to myself, he works for us. No one asked him to run. He chose to run. And then he is going to be completely annoyed when the public speaks to him. And this is kind of, I would say, about maybe 2/3 of your legislature is like that.
I think
so. Yeah, and it's a little bit annoying. Oh wait, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
To me, it doesn't truly represent. If we are the people, and we are the ones voting for these people, just like Christy had said. I have to be honest. I'm not going to name names. Maybe I should. But I actually voted for some of these people and literally went to Washington, D.C., went to their offices. This person is medical. I'm medical. And thinking we're on the same page and not voting at all for anything that we discussed and or talked about. And it's like, I kind of feel a little hoodwinked, to be honest. And probably some of you guys are feeling the same thing. But yeah, 3 minutes is ridiculous. Please jump in anywhere.
Well, and the thing that they would do, this to me is another tactic. They would let, it seemed to me that the things that the people who were speaking, who were testifying, and the way that they wanted, saying the things that they wanted them to say, they had unlimited time. But as soon as someone with a dissension, an opinion an opposite sort of vantage point came up, they instituted the 3-minute rule. It just,
they would talk.
We never really got to speak, and then they would cut us off, and it hadn't been 3 minutes. I mean, it's really unbelievable. And there should be some, they have the chairperson who, does as he or she pleases, and I guess that's the nature of the job. They can, but it's not necessarily fair by any stretch.
And one other thing is, you do not have a lot of public going down to speak, and that's one thing that we really have to do, because there is no way these folks can. Yes, they cannot read all this legislation. We saw that in the healthcare committee. A lot of those guys have not read any legislation. They were asking questions that were completely, I was embarrassed for them at that point. I'm embarrassed for a lot of them, I'll be honest.
They would leave.
Or they would leave and go eat. They would go to the next room and eat. And it was embarrassing. Also, if we do not go and speak, if we have expertise in one of the bills, like I have a healthcare background, or if you have a passion for it, then you have to, because you have to explain the bill to these guys. If they're going to, because there's going to be someone else there explaining this bill, and they may not be telling the truth.
They're giving their spin.
Right.
Yeah.
I wanted to jump in for just a minute and say, yes, indeed, they do have their minds made up. And I know this for a fact because one of the senators came up to me after the last meeting all of us were at. And he said, yeah, well, we knew we had the votes. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I drove 4 hours. I got a hotel room. I've been sitting here this whole day. I've got to drive 4 hours home. And you already knew you had the votes. You know, like, it was just, it blew my mind, really, that I had taken so much time, but it was truly a learning experience, truly.
Well, and part of my goal in this is to give a little bird's eye view of what's really going on, because this is just here. This is not, I mean, this is a representation of everywhere, I'm sure. Right. And not only the fact that each of you guys have 9-to-5s, you're working hard, you're bringing this stuff, you're working to bring awareness, you're concerned about the country, your future, you're a patriot, you love this country, but also on a bigger, huge level here, if this is happening here, this is happening everywhere. And I don't want to be just like, I do want people to see what's going on within each of maybe these states, but also what can we do? Like, I want some calls to action besides Connie had mentioned presence. I think that's a biggie of just, if there's so many of us that just showed up, I mean, don't you think that they would be like, okay, maybe we need to listen, and maybe our already decided situations, if there's 1 million people sitting outside going like, rah, 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 you know, I don't know. I'm just throwing things out there. Do you guys have any solutions? Because I don't want to sit here and just talk about how bad it is. Although I want people to see where we're at, I also would like to talk about and discuss any solutions that you may have to the situation besides doing what you're actually doing.
Well, I personally wasn't aware prior to going to the legislature that we as normal citizenry can do that. Go to the legislature, go to the Capitol and testify. We can speak. We can go in front of, the committee, and we can voice our opinions, our concerns. Not that it makes a difference, but you can do that. You can show up. One day we made signage for the people who didn't necessarily want to go in and speak, but they just carried the posters outside protesting a certain bill or supporting a certain bill, as the case may be. That was another way, literally just show up. You don't realize what one person, 2 people, 3 people can do, as opposed to sitting home and complaining about it, as we're wont to do. Just do something, whatever your talents, wherever your talents lay, use your talents. If that means to, go sit at the polls, whatever you can do, just do it. Just do it. Call,
email,
text, email. Yeah, exactly.
I think that we did see some change with the amount of calls. If there was a lot of people calling, I think it did have some change. I think that if we had an honest press, it would be over tomorrow, because if we could hold these people accountable for what they're doing, and it be reported on. That was another interesting thing would be to be in the hearing and to watch all of it happen, and then to read the write-up in the paper, which was absolutely not true. Right. It was like, were we in the same room? Were we? What was that? It was. I don't even know what to say about it. I mean,
it's propaganda.
Propaganda.
Another thing we can do is to get to know your local personal representative and your senator. Try to find their cell phone number so that you can text them. And I'm not saying slam them with a lot of text, but when it's absolutely necessary, if there's a bill coming up to vote on that day, send them a quick text, because they read their text messages, and then go to their town halls or whatever meetings they're going to be present. Like there's one here tomorrow that I know Connie's planning to go. I'm going to go. There's going to be several of these guys present, and let them know that you're watching and you're paying attention, and that you're going to be talking to your friends, and that you live in their district, and that you represent other people in their district, because they do want to get reelected. So that's one thing you can absolutely do. You just have to get up off your chair and do it.
I actually had a sitting senator call me because I was upset about a bill that he completely destroyed once it reached the Senate floor. And he called me and literally yelled at me, told me to shut up. He was sick of me. Now, this is someone I've met one time, and I've maybe communicated via text. Prior to that one text I sent him, I don't know, 3 or 4 times. It was shocking. And so I called a couple of my friends, and they were also, my sister-in-law and also another lady in town was also sending him texts about the same bill. And he then tweeted out that he does not negotiate with terrorists. Now, this is a sitting senator. And so I did place some calls, and I actually went to a Chamber of Commerce meeting. And I am letting people know the way he is treating his constituents. And hopefully we do not elect this person again.
That's such a good point. Yeah, I mean, to take the time and actually call you out and like yell at you, just for your personal freedom, expressing your freedom, that doesn't really make sense.
I couldn't tell you why he yelled at me. I'm wanting to speak with him about that. I couldn't tell you.
Well, we actually have Kathy Edmiston on the chat here, and I saw Beryl is looming around here, giving you guys great kudos. And I just want to give a shout out to them because they are working hard for our freedom in Louisiana.
Kathy's one of the good ones.
Kathy is a good one. Beryl is a good one.
Beryl's another one. Yes, absolutely.
Valerie Hodges. I just want to give
Valerie
shout out. Valerie Hodges.
Shout out to all
Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful women.
All women who
Dodie.
Who absolutely love our country, love our state, love our freedom, love our children. I just definitely cannot say enough about these women who are literally working on the front lines. Yes, ma'am.
We've watched them in action in front of the firing squad. Mm-hmm. That's how I look at it. They are undeterred, and they are brave, and they are courageous.
Yeah.
Yes.
They really are.
And I'll tell you who they fight. Who's fighting them mostly is our own Republican Party. Yeah.
They did more damage. The Republican Party did more damage to what our efforts were than any of the Democrats did.
And what we were looking at, these were nonpartisan issues. Nonpartisan.
Right.
And, I'm just flabbergasted. I don't even know the word. I'm just shocked at some of the behavior we saw.
Yeah. And to me, like you said, some of these people, if you want to call them whatever it is, they're supposed to represent the people who voted them, which means they would go back, kind of feel around and go, what do you guys think? And then cast a vote based on the people who are, quote, they're representing, versus just doing what they want to do because of whatever's going on or whatever they get or, all of that. When it's just, it's a little bit disheartening when you think that we are voting for a reason. It's because we are presented with these ideals that we think that they're going to follow through with. Right. But then sometimes they get in and they like shift a whole bunch of ideas and they become the polar opposite of what you actually voted for them for.
Or maybe they were rhinos in the first place.
Or maybe they could have been infiltrators. They could have just been sent in with a mission on purpose to just like screw everybody. But yeah, we have people who are on here about blackmail. There's people talking about infiltration to the max, women who have more balls than men right now. Yeah, definitely infiltration.
Sure.
Now they're being strategic. So how can we be strategic in these times? Besides mass numbers, what is it that we can do? I mean, besides not giving up, right?
Right.
You can't.
That's what
That's not an option.
Yeah.
And numbers.
We need to be educated. We need to educate ourselves on the legislation that's coming forth. Look at who's presenting it, and we do need to pay attention to their records also, and what committees they're chairing. And we can get a pretty good feel, because it was more of a power play up there, especially with the Republicans. I saw a lot of power play. You vote for my bill, I'll vote for yours. I don't even know what the bills say.
Well,
wow.
That's also what happened with some of the bills. Well, what we learned is that if there was enough time for the Democrats to get to the Republicans that weren't as strong or that they could manipulate, you might think you have the votes, or you think it's going a certain way, and then they vote against you. And it's because they were being manipulated by the Democrats. And so the fact that we have a supermajority in the Senate, majority in the House, did not make a difference. We actually had a Republican kill the bill to hold big tech accountable for free speech. I mean,
right.
That. What in the world could have been her motive? I'm going to say her name, Paula Davis from Baton Rouge, the rep. She does not need to be reelected. Absolutely not. But it's interesting what happened, because a lot of it was the Republicans undermining
each other.
Yeah.
The other thing is they had over 900 bills or resolutions, a total of over 900 things that they needed to read, study, know, vote on. That's not possible in a 2-month period of time. I mean, some of these bills are very complicated, especially this one election bill that we were all working on. I mean, I spent hours and hours and hours trying to understand and to really dig in and see what they were really doing, because sometimes it reads one way, but if you don't kind of know all the ins and outs, it really doesn't mean what you think it means. And there's no way these people can know everything they're voting on. I think personally, I think we need some reform where they don't have so many. I mean, some of these bills are ridiculous anyway. They shouldn't even have come up.
Well, just the one that Kathy had sent me was, I think, 102 pages. So that's like one bill. So I'm like, oh my God. She's like, look over this. And I'm like, it's 102 pages. So, not counting however many that these guys got to look over. And again, I want to stress to everyone who's watching, I am not personally saying one side is good or one side is bad. I'm looking at like truth. I'm looking at love. I'm looking at the future of our children, and what is just, to me, common sense for some of these things, like, health, freedom, just like you said, it's freedom of speech, freedom of life, being able to do normal things. And, it is a little bit interesting when it seems like just common sense things should be normally passed, because that's just common sense, and it's shut down or not heard or ignored.
Right. Because a lot of these, like we said, are not partisan issues.
We didn't think they were. I didn't think that
nothing we were concerned with. This is like a parent issue.
Like you said, common sense.
Right.
But it's almost like the common sense has been, hung out to dry in this country recently.
Right. And in our state capital for sure too.
Yeah.
Or there's a narrative, or there's a mockingbird setup where they have an agenda already that's set up for everyone to just comply and be okay, and or in ignorance not really know like what's even happening. I mean, like right now we have some serious bills that could be vetoed and or passed that are on the platform that would literally change the state, let alone the nations, with each state, and I don't even know if most people even know what's going on.
No,
They
I
don't,
don't think so.
because we don't have an honest press. And if that's what I'm saying, I think that a lot of this would be over tomorrow if we had some honest reporting um, in the mainstream media, like the local newspaper or the, you know, but people don't even understand what's going on unless they're down there, or they're not getting it from the paper.
Or what Katie's saying is so true, and that is such the point, because if people are relying on mainstream media as their source of information, because one time they used to be able to do that and really get the truth, if they're doing that, they're not getting the truth at all. They're getting one side. They're getting, as you said, the narrative, a narrative. And so I think it's critical for people to do their own research and to go down the rabbit holes of credible sources. You know, I say go on Telegram, because I think that's still a safe place to go to hear voices that have credibility. You're not going to get it from your local newspaper, sadly. You are going to get the narrative. You're going to get one side, you know, of any issue, and especially the ones that count so gravely today.
And it seems like it's it's whatever the government's putting out. Like, we would sit in there with a reporter, and he was hearing the same committee that we were hearing, that we were in. We were testifying, and then we would read what he wrote, and we're like, where did this even come from? Like, it was complete propaganda. And it's very sad to see that going on, you know?
Well, and that's why channels like this are so important. That's why you guys are so important. You know, social media has been so censored that even, like, literally we could barely say certain words or things, and then it's just like taken away. And then they took my channel away earlier this year after taking many, many videos of me just being honest about, like, facts. Like, you know, that's why you know, I'll say there's science and then there's political science, you know, it's like literally, it's like, and then you can fall in that every category, whether it's education and schools or, you know, health, or, you know, all of them go across the board, celebrities, you know, movies, all of it. And so I think that people who can get the information out, whether it's in code or understanding, showing up, being there, being action people instead of just waiting for things to happen and hoping things will happen. And, you know, maybe these people will do this thing for us. That is a big, huge part for us as individuals. Because
on that note, thank you for your channel, for what you do, because you're an integral part of that information network that we also desperately need right now, of the truth. So thank you for your show.
Well, thank you. And I do hope that people will do their part too, because you guys can all, everyone who's watching, you can all do a channel. You can all make your posts. You can all show up at these meetings. You can all be a voice. Use your voice and be the voice of truth, you know, in this season. Especially, this is such a critical time. And I just love these people. These ladies are so amazing to do all that they're doing. And then also on top of, they're just momming and wifing and working and, you know, showing up at these meetings, and, you know, they're concerned. They are loved. They are worried and concerned about the future. And it takes a lot of time to do what these guys are doing.
Oh, it takes a lot of time.
Yes. And yet here they are. And you guys can all do your version where you are. And I promise you, just think, if everyone stood up, they can't say no to everyone. If everyone that stood up.
There's more of us than there are of them.
There is.
That's what we need to remember that. And there's power in numbers, something, you know.
Local,
really,
start local. Go to your school board. Stop the CRT in school. Go to your city council. Stop any nonsense going on in your city. That, I mean, do that too. I think that that's even a better idea. Start local, so you can actually frame your own environment and be a leader locally.
Get to know your sheriff. That's a good person to know.
Definitely, because they got federal jurisdiction. They can do way more. Well, ladies, I thank you so much for your time. I thank you for your effort,
Thank
for your
you.
action, for not just being, I believe in prayer. I am a lover of God, and I appreciate God so much. And also, we're sent here to co-mission, meaning we are the legs. We are God in action. It's not just prayer, it's faith with action and responsibility to be responsible for, creating the laws ourselves. And so I just thank you so much for your time, not just here in this eye-opening window of your experiences, but just for your time that you've put into not only for our state, but to help other people understand what they can do in their states and their countries. Because we have quite a few that are outside the United States that are actually looking to us and saying, hey, what can we do? They're in lockdown. They have been in lockdown. They are, having all kinds of issues, and we get to stand up, we get to voice our choice, and if we don't do anything, someone's going to do it their way.
Right.
Right.
Another thing that we can do is pray.
Right.
Pray. That's our first weapon
prayer,
of defense. Prayer,
fasting, all of that,
information, all of it. But yeah, number
get
one,
educated.
pray.
Yes, ma'am. And
Yes.
Candy's right. I think that what Candy was saying earlier is, that there actually is more of us, but the media wants to make it look like we're the tiny little percentage of just the bareleys. Yeah. We are not the bareleys. There's way more of us, but either people don't express it or they're censored. So don't give up. Start a new channel if you get shut down. Keep talking, keep sharing, get the word out. Do not stop, because they cannot shut up truth. Truth is authentic. Truth has a vibration. Truth is real. And there's no shutting up truth. God is truth. So
That's right.
When we have God in our technology, in our very cells, you cannot shut up God. And so I'm not saying that we are God, but God is here and present. And God loves freedom. God loves health and wholeness and free, all the beautiful things that God is. And we get the opportunity to be the commissioners here in action, making and creating this world as we see fit for the best opportunity for our children and for our futures. And so thank you for what you guys are doing. I do hope that those of you who are watching will please do your due diligence and sharing, getting out there, voting, looking to see who maybe you voted for before. Maybe there's some changes you need to make. Maybe this upcoming bill may need and require your assistance showing up and or being there. Lots of prayers, lots of fasting, and or just being in the know. I'm not just waiting for things to happen, but actually being a part and participating and what you can do and bring your portion to these things. But thank you, Connie, for helping with setting this up. And it's just such a beautiful thing to meet all of you so much. And appreciate y'all very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Great to be here.
Hey, you know what? One thing I forgot. How about run for office?
I almost said that. You can run yourself.
Yeah.
How about everybody who actually believes in love and truth, run for office and let's take over this place,
Yes.
Let's do this. I mean, that's what Valerie Hodges always talks about. She's like, we need you to run for office. Like, I don't care if you're a mom at home, that's the best people because you actually care and love people. So, I love you guys. Thank you for your part. Thank you for your courage and your strength and what you're doing. And I hope to connect with you guys later somewhere along the line, and we'll talk soon.
Great.
Sounds
All
great.
right.
Thank you.
Thank
God
you.
bless.
Bye-bye.
Right. Bye-bye.